So today I decided to do something else besides dying within the first 8 minutes of PlayerUnknown's Battleground. I have instead decided to talk a little bit about the movie Alien Covenant that I watched a few days prior to this recording. It was a film that I was rather excited for, since I really liked its process of Prometheus, but after watching Covenant I sat with a main disappointed feeling of it. So here's why Alien Covenant sucks in comparison to Prometheus. There will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched either Prometheus or Alien Covenant, go watch Prometheus. And then maybe go watch Alien Covenant. I mean, well, what do I care? One of the biggest flaws is the movie's lack of originality. By that I mean that there is nothing in Covenant that we haven't seen before in other Alien movies. It follows the exact same pattern / storyline as both Alien 1 and Prometheus, and Ridley Scott is essentially ripping off key elements of his own movies, and in this case especially Prometheus. As I said, I actually liked Prometheus. I thought it was interesting, had somewhat likable characters, and most of all, it was original in its way, trying to give some enlightenment to the backstory of the old movies. But somehow Alien Covenant completely fails to deliver any of that. Here are some similarities of Alien Covenant and Prometheus. I have only watched Alien Covenant once from start to finish, so there's probably more that I just didn't find. Both crews goes to an unknown planet not knowing what to find from a signal or sign leading them there. Both strong female protagonists loses their husband in a rather traumatizing way involving fire, which gives us sympathy for them, but also makes them stronger so they eventually can be the last standing survivor. Both expeditions are dumb which not only respond to the encounter extremely poorly, but also take no precaution whatsoever involving not getting infected by the diseases, which at least in Covenant end up killing them all. Both movies shows David having a hidden agenda and casually kills and experiments on the unknowing crew. They both have a big open ending that can go almost anywhere in the next part of the series. Of course you could say that Prometheus also rips off Alien and Aliens, but Prometheus is the first time we explore the origin of the universe to the Alien movies. Things are new, but in Covenant we're just shown the same stuff without bringing anything new to the table. There do happen some exciting things here and there, but nothing that really expands the universe or gives us any answers to the questions from the first movie. Which brings us to the next problem. It was a wrong story to tell. The movie is essentially a mashup between the original Prometheus storyline and the fact that people were disappointed that they didn't get to see the exact favorite alien in the last movie. It is therefore trying to do what the original Alien did, but also what Prometheus did, and it fails at both. Instead of continuing Elizabeth Short's search for answers, we're introduced to a whole new crew who shall carry on the torch. The new crew is unfortunately nothing else but hollow shells of people for the aliens to eventually kill. They have little to no characterization or motivation, except that they would like to go live on a planet somewhere. Prometheus also suffered from a few people with lack of character, mostly looking at the two scientists, but it did have some interesting characters in between. In Prometheus, there is clear relations and tension between the characters, which further brings out the motivation and the themes surrounding them. To mention some examples is the Vegas, Valen's daughter, who don't believe in her father's plan, but still comes along in an attempt to get his approval.
Anything else?
No. Father.
Wayland himself, who loves his creation David more than his real daughter, and fears death enough to make a desperate attempt to escape it.
If these things made us, then surely they could save us.
And Elizabeth Shaw, whose motivation literally is to find the creators of mankind. I mean, to me that's interesting.
Guess you can take your father's cross off now.
Why would I want to do that?
Because they made us.
And who made them?
Unfortunately, looking at Alien Covenant, there's little to nothing going on between the characters, and the only character traits to separate them from each other is stuff like that Danny McBride's character likes John Denver.
Take me home, country road. That's fucking John Denver. That's Take Me Home, Country Roads.
That Daniels would like to build a cabin.
When we get there, will you help me build my cabin?
And the captain liked to make unnecessary dick moves.
Our captain. We need to acknowledge that.
Sergeant Loeb, I completely understand, but if we don't make these repairs, we will lose all the colonists.
It is true that the character that really stands out in both movies is David, and when he finally does appear halfway through Alien Covenant, there actually is some interesting dynamics between him and the new android Waldo. But when the rest of the cast is so dull and essentially don't matter, why should we care about them? I would much rather have seen David and Elizabeth Jones' story continue, since Covenant's story actually was a part 2 to David's evil scheme anyway.
Even after all this.
Furthermore, they completely wasted a good character by killing Elizabeth Jones out of nothing. A good sequel is what continues or expands the story in a new and interesting way. A good example for a sequel is Aliens, where James Cameron not only changes the genre, but more importantly continues the story by putting in some new and interesting characters to complement Ripley's character and make her grow as a person, instead of a scene in Alien, Covenant and Aliens 3 where it just kills off the characters from the last movie and more or less tells us the previous film or films didn't matter. The last problem I'll mention is the fact that it was way too predictable.
I gotta take a leak.
Don't be long.
The twists and turns the movie makes can be seen from miles away. The murder of Elizabeth Jones, when somebody's going to die and who it is, and maybe worst of all, the big final twist was just painfully obvious. The crew of the movie may not be aware of what's going to happen, but everybody who has watched just one of the movies from the Alien franchise, or even a horror movie in general, should never really be in any doubt of what's going to happen. It really uses every cliché from the book. Some examples of this is when this one girl separates herself from the group for no real reason except for the plot to happen.
I'm gonna take a break, boss. I gotta clean up, okay?
Okay.
And then just turns around and dies. Then there's the shady captain who's stupid enough to look down one of the alien eggs for a brief moment of silence, and then the jump scare. Then there is the couple who literally dies while having sex in the shower. I don't blame the movie too much for the alien that gets onto the ship, since it's kind of mandatory for the alien movies. But what I do blame it for is the horrible obvious David Walter swap. If you watch the scene, they even show that David is reaching for the knife and has a chance in the fight. Why even make us wonder? If you're going to pull the rock from under someone's feet, don't tell a person that you might do it, just do it. There's nothing wrong with foreshadowing or whatever they were trying to do, but don't spoil it. I mean, what is a plot twist worth if you know it's coming? To end the discussion, I would like to say that looking back at some of the things I said, I realized that I probably have been a little harsh on this movie. It do have some very good set pieces, and some disturbing imagery. So if you like some well-made action sci-fi where you can turn your brain off and watch some aliens kill some humans, then half of this movie is for you. And if you're one of the people who like Prometheus, then you can go fuck yourself.
I know.
If I am to continue making videos, I thought it might be cool to come up with some kind of system in order to rate the movies I'm talking about. This could probably be more useful if I for example did a spoiler-free review of a newer movie, but you know, whatever. I'm probably just doing it because I like rating stuff. I'm going to rate the movies judged by 3 categories, which is look, which is like stuff like lighting, editing, cinematography, you know, etc. Then performances, which is exclusively looking at the actors' performances as the characters. And most importantly, I'll be looking at the story and its originality. Alien Covenant, I'll give a 7.5 in look, since Ridley Scott is still an excellent visual director. And while the movie doesn't have much to offer from a storytelling perspective, it still looks and feels glorious. In performances, I'll give it a 6, since the actors does a fine job even with the lacking material. We never really get to learn any of the characters good enough to care about them, but for how hollow they are, I would not say the actors did a bad job. Finally, I'll give the story a 5 due to the sloppy writing, which I discussed in the video. And since the story usually is the most important part of a movie, this number counts as double. This gives a total of around 5.8. Here are the stats from Prometheus. It has a 7.5 in look, 7 in performances, and an 8 in story.
Try spinning, that's a good trick.
Okay, 7.5. This gives a total of 7.3. I'll probably talk about one of these movies next video. Or maybe not. I could change my mind. We'll see. Oh, and hey, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you feel like it, you're also welcome to leave a comment. I'll probably answer since, you know, I have like 0 subscribers. But you know, bye.